You are walking down a peaceful road, the sun is shining, the birds are singing, and everything seems perfect. But suddenly, the sky darkens, and a storm begins. You feel the strong wind, the heavy rain starts falling, and you begin to wonder, will I be able to keep going? The feeling of not knowing what to do, of thinking you won't make it, can be scary, right? We all go through moments like this, when it feels like the world is crashing down around us and we can't see a way out. Now, let me tell you a story. Imagine life as a big road full of unexpected turns. Sometimes, everything is going well, the sun is shining, the wind is gentle, and the journey seems smooth. But suddenly, you come across a sharp turn, full of rocks, and it seems like there's no way forward. This is the moment when life puts you to the test. Let's meet Clara. She's a young woman full of dreams, but like everyone, she faces difficulties. One day, Clara lost her job. It hit her hard. At first, she felt lost, as if she was walking down a never-ending road with no idea where to go. But instead of standing still, Clara started to see the situation as an opportunity. She decided that this challenging moment wasn't going to be the end of the road, but rather the starting point for something new. With her newfound free time, Clara was able to reflect on what she really wanted to do. She realized that this was the perfect chance to pursue an old passion, opening her own bakery. At first, it seemed difficult. The path was full of obstacles, but with each setback, she learned something new. Thus, Clara teaches us that challenges are like hidden tests, not meant to bring us down, but to help us grow. Sometimes, we need a sharp turn in the road to see a new horizon. And who knows, in the end, the road may lead us to an even better destination than we ever imagined. Now, let me tell you another story. In a small town called Sao Pedrinho, there was a farmer named Zika. He was known for his kind heart and for never abandoning those who were loyal to him. Among his many animals, the one that brought him the most joy was a donkey named Jeremias. Oh, but Jeremias wasn't just any donkey. He was smart, strong, and had been Zika's companion for years. Whenever someone asked, Zika would say, "This donkey is more than a friend, he's family." As time passed, Jeremias began to age, like all of us. His steps became slower, his strength was no longer the same. Zika knew that Jeremias didn't have many useful years left on the farm, but he would never abandon him. Instead, he let the donkey roam freely in the green fields, grazing wherever he wanted as a reward for years of hard work. One day, as the sun was setting on the horizon, Jeremias, distracted, fell into an old well covered by vegetation. The donkey was trapped, unable to get out. The cold, damp walls seemed to wrap him in a grip of despair. Scared, Jeremias brayed, but no one heard him in the quiet night. The next morning, Zika realized something was wrong. Jeremias hadn't shown up for his usual morning walk. Zika searched everywhere until he finally heard a distant bray coming from the bottom of the well. When he saw his companion trapped down there, Zika's heart sank. He immediately ran to call the neighbors, and soon everyone was gathered, trying to think of a way to save the donkey. They tried using ropes, ladders, and even invented a makeshift harness, but nothing worked. Jeremias was old and tired, and with each attempt, he seemed more frightened. After hours of frustrating efforts, someone suggested that maybe the best solution was to end Jeremias' suffering. The plan was to fill the well with dirt, ensuring no one else would fall in and giving the donkey a quick end to his pain. The decision was painful, especially for Zika, but he didn't want to see his loyal companion suffer any longer. So everyone began to throw dirt into the well. But something unexpected happened. Every time the dirt fell on Jeremias' back, he shook it off and stepped on the freshly fallen dirt. Little by little, Jeremias began to rise, using the dirt that was supposed to bury him as a step towards his freedom. The neighbors, so focused on their work, took a while to realize what was happening. When they finally looked into the well, there was Jeremias, almost reaching the edge. With one last effort, the donkey jumped out, to everyone's surprise. Zika, with tears in his eyes, embraced his old friend. He never imagined that Jeremias, even old and tired, could have so much strength and resilience. Everyone there learned an important lesson that day. No matter the size of the challenge, there is always a way to overcome it. Sometimes, what seems like it's suffocating us is exactly what we need to lift ourselves up. Jeremiah's story shows how resilience can turn even the most desperate situations into opportunities for growth. When life throws dirt at us, whether problems, difficulties, or frustrations, we have two choices. We can let ourselves be buried or shake it off and use it as a step towards our liberation. So, Jeremiah's example makes us think about how we deal with adversity. Do we face our problems head-on, shaking off the dust, or do we let ourselves sink under the weight of difficulties? Jeremiah shows us that even when everything seems lost, there is always a way to turn what was meant to bring us down into strength to rise even higher. Have you ever stopped to think about how sometimes life feels like a true sea of challenges? One day, everything is going well, but the next, it seems like a storm forms out of nowhere. In that moment, how we react can make all the difference. Let's meet Julia, a woman who, in the face of great adversity, discovered the power of perseverance and a positive attitude. Julia had a dream: to open her own flower shop. She had always been passionate about flowers and had a special gift for caring for them, as if she spoke the secret language of plants. After years of saving, planning, and hard work, she finally managed to open the doors to her small shop, called Jardim Encantado, Enchanted Garden. At first, things were going well. Customers came, complimented the flowers, and she felt like her dream was coming true. But then, something unexpected happened. A strong storm hit the city, and with it came a flood. Jardim Encantado, which was located in a lower part of town, was completely flooded. In a few hours, everything Julia had built with so much effort seemed to have been destroyed by the water. The shelves were covered in mud, the flowers she had cared for so much were unrecognizable, and despair took over Julia's heart. She could have given up right then and there. She could have accepted that life, with its storm, had washed her dream away. But something inside her told her that giving up wasn't the only option. Julia decided that despite all the destruction, she wasn't going to let her dream die. That's when she took action. First, she took a deep breath and called some friends and loyal customers to help her. Together, they spent days cleaning the shop, removing the mud, and trying to save what was left. Each small effort seemed insignificant in the face of the damage, but Julia didn't let despair win. Every plant she managed to save, every shelf she cleaned, her hope grew. She knew it wouldn't be easy, but she was determined to rebuild everything. During this process, many admired her strength. "How do you keep going?" they asked. Julia's answer was always the same: "I can't control the storms that come, but I can control how I react to them." That was her guiding mantra. She knew that if she stayed focused on what was lost, she would never have the energy to start over. So she chose to focus on what still could be done. Days went by, and little by little, Jardim Encantado was rebuilt. And not only that, the shop came back even stronger. People, inspired by Julia's perseverance, began to frequent the flower shop with even more affection, knowing that it held more than just beautiful flowers. It held a story of overcoming. Julia teaches us that in the face of adversity, the secret lies in our attitude. Of course, we can't always avoid life's storms, but we can decide how to face them. While many would have let themselves sink, she chose to resist. Her story shows that perseverance isn't about never failing, but about continuing to try, even when everything seems lost. She could have stayed at the bottom of the pit, lamenting the destruction, but she chose to see it as an opportunity to start again, to prove her strength. When we face difficult moments, like Julia, we have two options: give up or move forward with a positive attitude. And believe me, when you choose to fight, even when the battle seems impossible, you find strength you didn't even know you had. In the end, Julia rebuilt her flower shop and her life. But the most important thing was the lesson left behind. Adversities come for everyone, but how we deal with them is what defines us. And just like Julia, if we keep a positive attitude and perseverance, we can turn any storm into an opportunity to bloom again. Now, imagine a situation where everything seems to be falling apart around you. The feeling of being stuck in a dark place, where the only thing left is hope. That's the moment that can change everything, like in the story of Marcos, a man who discovered that hope is the most powerful fuel to overcome any challenge. Marcos had always been a hard worker. With a family to care for and many bills to pay, he was never afraid of hard work. He was a construction worker, and what he loved most was seeing the results of his effort in the buildings he helped construct. But one day, while working on a big project, he had an accident. A slip on the ladder, a hard fall, and suddenly his world was turned upside down. Marcos was rushed to the hospital, and after several tests, the news hit like a punch in the gut. He would no longer be able to walk as he used to. The injury to his spine had left him partially paralyzed. For a man who had always depended on his body to work, it felt like the end. He felt that all the effort of years of hard work and sacrifices had been thrown to the ground along with him. In the days that followed, Marcos fell into a deep depression. Things that once seemed simple, like playing with his children or even getting out of bed, were now almost impossible. He kept asking himself, why did this happen to me? It was hard to find any reason to keep going, and for a moment, he almost lost hope. Then something unexpected happened. During one of his routine hospital visits, Marcos met a nurse named Anna. She always had a smile on her face and a comforting word. One day, Anna pulled up a chair next to Marcos and with all calmness, asked, "Do you believe in miracles?" Marcos gave a bitter smile and replied, "I don't know what to believe anymore." But Anna didn't give up. "You know," she said, "sometimes the miracle isn't the instant healing, but what we do with life after the fall." Those words echoed in Marcos's mind. He began reflecting on what Anna had said, and slowly, something inside him started to change. He realized that although he couldn't control his condition, he still had a choice. He could allow despair to take over, or he could keep hope alive, even if just a small thread of it. Determined not to give up, Marcos began physical therapy, even though his first movements were almost insignificant. With each session, he pushed himself a little more, and no matter how small the progress, he clung to the hope that he could still do something with his life. He no longer expected a miracle of full recovery, but he began to believe that true change came from his inner strength and the hope he refused to let die. Over time, Marcos started to regain some movement. And most importantly, he rediscovered his self-worth. Yes, his life had drastically changed, but he found a new way forward. Instead of returning to heavy labor, he began tutoring the children of his friends and neighbors. He discovered he had a natural talent for teaching, and slowly, he turned the tragedy into a new vocation. Marcos's story teaches us that hope is the key to facing the darkest moments. When everything seems bleak, it's hope that lights a small spark, which can grow and guide us down an unexpected path. Marcos shows us that even when the body fails, the spirit can rise with the power of renewed hope. Just like Marcos, we all face situations that seem unbearable, where the feeling of helplessness overwhelms us. But the truth is, as long as we keep hope alive, even if it's small, there will always be a chance to turn the situation around. Hope is the key that opens doors we didn't even know existed. It gives us the strength to keep fighting and makes us believe that, no matter how difficult, there's still a road to be walked. Now, I want to tell you the story of Luisa, a woman who, by sharing her journey, changed not only her own life but also the lives of many people around her. Luisa had always been a reserved person. She liked to live her life quietly, without exposing her feelings or problems too much. To others, it seemed like everything was always fine. She was that friend everyone saw as strong, always smiling, ready to help. But behind that smile, Luisa carried a heavy burden, a constant battle with anxiety. For many years, she dealt with this anxiety alone, believing that no one would understand or that, if she spoke about it, people would judge her. Sometimes, the feeling of anguish was so overwhelming that she could barely leave the house. The desire to talk about what she was feeling was there, but the fear of being misunderstood was even greater. Luisa believed that to be strong, she had to carry everything by herself. Everything changed the day a close friend, Carla, confided in her about how overwhelmed she was feeling with work and life in general. Carla confessed that recently, she had been feeling lost, as if she no longer knew how to handle the pressure. When Luisa heard this, she felt a tightness in her chest. For the first time, she realized she wasn't the only one facing a huge emotional burden. That opened a door in her heart. On an impulse, Luisa decided to share with Carla what she had been going through. At first, it was hard. She hesitated, the words felt heavy, but once she started talking, she felt relieved. She talked about her anxiety, about how sometimes it felt like her world was falling apart, even though everything looked fine on the outside. And to her surprise, Carla not only listened attentively, but also offered support and understanding. That conversation was a turning point for Luisa. She realized that sharing her story wasn't a sign of weakness, but of strength. More than that, by opening her heart, she not only felt lighter, but also gave Carla the courage to face her own problems with more confidence. Little by little, Luisa started to share her story with other close friends. She joined support groups and began to realize that her story was helping others feel less alone. Over time, Luisa became a kind of reference for those going through emotional challenges. Her story of battling anxiety, which she had once kept hidden, now inspired others to face their own battles. And the most beautiful thing was that by helping others, Luisa also healed a little more each day. She learned that sharing her experiences was, in fact, a way to strengthen herself. Luisa's story teaches us that, often, we keep our pain and struggles to ourselves, afraid of appearing vulnerable. But it's exactly when we open our hearts and share our journey that we find strength, support, and more importantly, we can inspire others to do the same. Our experiences, no matter how difficult, have the power to touch the people around us, showing that no one needs to carry their burden alone. The truth is that, just like Luisa discovered, we all have a story to tell. And that story, no matter how challenging or painful it seems, could be the light someone else needs to overcome their own difficulties. Sharing experiences isn't just an act of courage, but also of empathy. When you share your journey, you allow others to connect, relate, and maybe find in you the strength they need to move forward. So the next time you feel overwhelmed or feel like opening up, remember Luisa. Don't be afraid to share your story. You never know who might need to hear exactly what you have to say. Sometimes, the words that seem so hard to speak are exactly what someone is waiting for to find a little peace and hope. Now that you've heard all this, I hope you've realized just how important it is to never lose hope, even when things seem tough. Life may throw dirt on you, but just like that donkey who turned the dirt into steps to climb up, you too can turn challenges into opportunities. And remember, in the hardest moments, that's when we need to be most attentive. Because often, it's in the middle of difficulties that the best opportunities appear. So when you feel like you can't take it anymore, take a deep breath, lift your head, and keep going. After all, as we've seen, there is no pit so deep that you can't climb out of it.